Hello, this is Maggie, and I'm going to show you how to measure an octave and start to explain why we measure an octave. I'm sure I won't name every note and interval all the time, so I'm going to add some text to this to make sure you know which ones I'm talking about. Quick review of the 4 types of octaves we will be measuring. I've already talked about in a previous video a 2-to-1 octave, a 4-to-2 octave, and a 6-to-3 octave. I don't think I mentioned an 8-to-4 octave, but that would be another octave type. That goes on ad infinitum, but we really don't need to talk about beyond 8-to-4. The most common that we will be using are 4-to-2 and 6-to-3, particularly in the middle range of the piano. So first, the how. The why is important though, so don't skip after, don't turn off the video after the how. You got to know both. We're going to use the 5th partial of another note. If I take a 5th partial of a note and have that line up at my 2-to-1 octave, that note ends up being here. So here's my lower interval, here's my upper interval, and what I'm measuring is the 2nd coincident partial of my F3 to the 5th coincident partial of D flat 2, and I listen to that beat rate, that one, F3, D flat 2, and I'm listening to partials 2 and 5, and I listen to the beat rate. If I compare that to the beat rate between this same 5th partial and the fundamental of this F, I can tell if I have a 2-to-1 octave or not. If it's the same, if it's a 2-to-1 octave. If this beat rate is slower than this beat rate, I have a narrow of a 2-to-1 octave. If this beat rate is faster than this beat rate, I have a wider than a 2-to-1 octave. So let's go to our 4-to-2 octave here. Here's our test note now. That's not a 4-to-2. There's a 4-to-2. Haha. I'm going to be listening to the 4th coincident partial and 4th partial and 5th partial meeting coincidentally right here from this major third, and compare it to these 2 coincident partials meeting here. If they beat the same, I have a 4-to-2 octave. If the lower interval beats faster than my upper interval, then I have a narrow of a 4-to-2 octave. If my lower interval is slower than the beat rate of my upper interval, I have a wider than a 4-to-2 octave. Moving along, if I compare the 6th partial of my lower note with the 3rd partial of my upper note, using the 5th partial of a test note, I can decide if I have a 6-3 octave. If these 2 beat rates are the same, I know I have a 6-3 octave, which these are not. If these 2 partials beat faster than these 2 partials, then I have a narrow of a 6-3 octave. If these partials beat slower than these partials, I know my octave is wide of 6-3. If I move to 8-4, and you will almost never use this, but it is handy to know about. If I measure these partials, if they're equal beating, I have an 8-to-4 octave. If these partials are beating faster than these partials, my octave is narrow of 8-4. If these partials are beating slower than these partials, my octave is wide of 8-4. So this is the how. Very important is the why. The way I have these little cardboard cutouts with the harmonic series marked along my keyboard, number one, it's not real. The harmonic series does not fit in our keyboard, which I explained in a previous video. But also, the harmonic series on a piano is expanded. It goes sharp from the fundamental, typically, which I explained in another video. So what I'm going to do here is to have this harmonic series that doesn't line up with my keyboard. And I'm going to kind of space it out. So this is F, but it's, see how my bass is left of my F, then this is a little left, and then this next one is a little left, and this one's on. Then this one's kind of on, and this one's starting to get sharp, and I'm getting even more sharp here, and really sharp here. So you can kind of see how it's spread out. If I have this representing my low F, and this representing my upper F, if I tune a 2-to-1 octave, what happens at my 4-to-2? They don't line up. This partial is sharp of this one. This partial is flat of that one. So if I have a 2-to-1 octave, that octave is narrow at 4-to-2, and it's narrow at the rest of them. If I measure and move and raise my F a little bit to make my 2-to-1 octave wide and make my octave a clear 4-to-2, a pure 4-to-2 octave, then as I mentioned, I'm wide at the 2-to-1, I'm a 4-to-2 octave, I am still narrow at 6-3. If I raise this F a little more and expand my octave more so I'm in tune at 6-3, I am now very wide at 2-to-1, wide at 4-to-2, in tune at 6-3, and still narrow at 8-4. If I actually were to tune an 8-4 octave, I am now wide at every other measure of that octave except above 8-4. So this is why we stretch. We don't stretch the octave out of tune. We stretch the octave into tune with its partials. How to know which partial to choose is another video that'll be coming soon. If you have any questions, comments, corrections, concerns, suggestions, etc., 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 please email me at maggie@thebutlerschool.org or comment below. If you have already subscribed to my channel, thank you so much. And if you haven't, please do. See you next time.